Hi guys, and welcome to this video on the full moon in Virgo that happens on the 18th of March 2022. Thanks for joining me. The chart you see next to me here, that's a snapshot of the sky at the moment this full moon happens at 17 minutes past 8 in the morning, and that's based on Europe time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to analyze the chart, see how the planets are interacting with one another, what energy that brings up and how you can use it to your advantage. Well, that's the plan anyway. And before I get into the horoscope, I just want to give you a quick trigger warning on this video. I'm really struggling with poor mental health at the moment and self-hatred, which is because I am who I am, but I feel it's being exacerbated by this full moon in Virgo. Virgo is famous for being self-critical and critical. And I've thought of whether I should make this video at all or whether I should just go to bed and try and heal this. But the reason I want to make the video is because I want to find a practical solution through all of this for myself. So this video is about me, like everything else in my life. The last time this happened, when I exploded like this, was during a full moon in Cancer. And that made sense to me because I'm a sun sign Virgo, so that's the element of earth. When there's a lot of water in the chart, like during a full moon in Cancer, it brings up a lot of feeling and a lot of negative emotion for me. I was actually looking forward to this full moon in Virgo because it's my sign. And I thought I'd be practical and I'd get things done. But what I'm experiencing is just I'm relentlessly hammering myself, particularly on things that I have no control over or things where I feel like I failed in my life. I'm just like, oh, it's brutal. So I was going to suggest that if you have similar issues, that self-care is important. But I have to be very careful with that because I got a comment on the channel recently from someone who said, "Hey Greg, you started speaking in a different way. You said something like, 'What I want you to do is,' and it makes my skin crawl." And I apologize if I misspoke. I'm not here to dictate anything or to tell you what to do. What I try and do in my horoscopes and my tarot readings is identify the energy and how you can use it to your advantage. So please don't get me wrong, I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. I mean, who am I, right? So I'm backing off. I feel the point of the readings is to try and identify something and then to find a way to use it. And whether you use it or not, or whether I know what I'm talking about or not, that's not the point. The point is to give you something useful. So I apologize if I've come across as bossy or anything like that. Okay, so the full moon is at 27 degrees in Virgo. It opposes the sun at 27 degrees in Pisces, so they're 180 degrees away from each other. And the full moon is when the moon reaches its monthly completion point. There's a sense of achievement. It lets go of all of its energy, and we then receive that energy. That's why full moons are often very difficult for people because the energy is just so intense. In this case, we're getting the Virgo energy, and in a practical way, the strongest element in the chart as well on this day is Earth. Virgo is meant to give you the ability to assess things and to see them clearly, particularly your physical health, your appearance, your career, your finances, your environment, the way things look, and how you can reshape them or adjust them so that they suit you. If you think about the time of year when Virgo actually happens, it's in the autumn. And the story I always have with Virgo is that if you're storing food for the winter, you need to critically look at that food and make sure none of it is spoiled before you put it into storage. Because if one orange is moldy, all of the other oranges are going to get moldy. So it's super important to be critical and to say this is the bad lemon, this is the good one, because otherwise everything is ruined. And Virgo likes to plan ahead, and it's able to use that vision to store for the winter, to get things organized for tough times or when things are more difficult, that you're okay, that you're provided for. So Virgo is very grounded in that sense, and it assumes that things aren't always going to be sunny and hunky-dory, but that is okay, and that you can use your intellect to prepare for the tough times so that you don't suffer when they come along. So this full moon in Virgo is at 27 degrees. 2 and 7 is 9. 9 in numerology is spirituality and completion. And the first thing I'm getting here is that you may criticize your own identity or who you are in spiritual truth. And there may be a feeling that I am not good enough. Also, if you look at this chart, the moon is all by itself, all alone. And we've got all these outer planets and the personal planets sitting on the other side of the chart. And it may give you that feeling of no one understands me or likes me, and I'm by myself here and I need to figure it all out on my own. So if that's the case, then of course, trying to resolve that by sharing your experience and receiving support is going to offset that. Because if someone is genuinely helping you, that's evidence that you're not on your own. So you can immediately put that to bed by taking practical action around it. The moon at 27 degrees in Pisces, no, not the moon, the sun at 27 degrees in Pisces. The sun's your identity. The moon is what comes naturally and easily, what you have access to on an emotional level. And the sun is what you're striving towards being. And that's very telling because, again, 2 and 7 is 9, the hermit in the tarot. I'm looking for enlightenment. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, which is about what's next? What does it all mean? And because that sun really puts your spiritual truth under the microscope, and then we have nitpickety little Virgo on the other side saying, oh, this is what you could have been, and you're not. Therefore, you failed. Aren't you stupid? Sorry, I'm talking about myself now. Okay, we've got Neptune sitting next to it. Oh, and the sun in Pisces, I mean, just speaking seriously for a second, it gives you a glimpse into the other realms. It gives you an understanding of your own intuition, your spiritual truth. It allows you to connect with your angels, the higher realms. So again, that's a solution for feeling isolated or hard done by. And then we've got Neptune sitting on top of it. Neptune is the water planet of dreams and intuition. At 23 degrees in Pisces, it's about spiritual freedom. And what that means to me is if you saw potential in yourself and you feel like something has been lost, that's going to be tough. Instead of looking at the past and what's been lost, realize that in spiritual truth, you can't really lose anything, can you? Because there's a part of yourself inside of you that you can't get to. And if you can't even get to it, how on earth would negative experiences on planet Earth get there or affect you in any way? So what my take from that is that in spiritual truth, you're invincible and untouchable and perfect. And finding a way to retrieve that and reclaim that, or simply to understand it, will then allow you to look to the future and to say, I'm not going to harp on about my failures. I haven't really lost anything here. I'm going to start fresh, and I've got a choice. Either I can reveal myself and make myself bigger, or I can redesign myself. I personally feel that trying to be your most authentic self is the best option, because if you're trying to fit into society's view of what's valuable and good, or what you ought to do in some sort of culture or spiritual tradition, then you're chipping away at yourself. And that's what I feel is difficult, that chipping away at the self part. So what I'm saying, I suppose, is that, and guys, tell me what you think about this, because what I'm feeling is that if you find you can be your true self without compromise, and the example that's coming to mind is the 80s singer Nina Hagen, who I put a video of her on my Instagram because it's just so out there and unique and different. Other people respect that. For the self, it's like, well, this is who I am. I'm just going to put it all out there. That's freedom, right? But then you've got other people who do very well in society because they say, let me just, like the example I want to use is The Real Housewives of Orange County. I was watching that yesterday. Maybe that's why I feel so mental. And what they said is, in the OC, it's very normal to have blonde hair, a big kind of bust size, and to be thin, and to have caps on your teeth, and all of that stuff. Because that's what, according to the show, I think anyway, that's what people like. And if you align yourself with that, you're going to have more success in a practical sense. Like, if the men are attracted to that, then you'll have more demand. If society likes pretty people and gives them a break more easily than someone who doesn't look like that, then of course you're going to have better job opportunity, blah, blah, blah. But then the argument is, have I just become a shell of myself? Am I the real me still inside? Or have I sold myself to this society by looking the way everyone else does? And does that lessen me? So it really depends on whether you want to have real world success and you're willing to trade in the things that you don't like about yourself, or whether you're going to say, I'm not interested in what other people think. I'm amazing and unique, and I'm going to maximize everything about me. And to hell with what other people think, or whether I'm seen to be desirable, or whatever it may be. And that's a personal choice, isn't it? Jupiter is at 18 degrees in Pisces. Jupiter is the planet of good luck, good fortune. It's another 9. 1 and 8 is 9. And that's the same in numerology as Pisces in astrology, I would say. So we've got Jupiter at 9 degrees in Pisces. And Jupiter expands the spiritual realms so that you don't even need to try very much to connect with it. It's just right there. So if you're trying to get some answers intuitively, if you're trying to discover how you truly feel about something, then Jupiter is going to make that very easy. Plus, the good luck of Jupiter is accessible to you when you go into the realm of spirit through meditation or yoga or chanting or whatever you use to get you there. So you'll get spiritual insights that give you answers. And the good thing then with this full moon in Virgo is going to critically assess all of those answers and say, okay, that's the best one, that's the next best one, I'm going to prioritize, I'm going to organize everything, and then I'm going to go off and do it. I'm going to do the legwork. So that's amazing. Then we've got Mercury at 13 degrees in Pisces. So the sun is at 27 degrees. So I use 10-degree orbs. Something is within 10 degrees of another planet, I say that's a conjunction. Other astrologers may use 5-degree orbs or 15. I think 10 is standard. So technically, Neptune is conjunct to the sun. Jupiter is conjunct to the sun because it's 9 degrees away. Mercury isn't because it's at 13 degrees in Pisces. That's outside of the 10-degree orb. But it's next to all of those, and it is conjunct to Jupiter, etc. So Mercury is still relevant. It's at 13 degrees in Pisces. So the 13 is 4, that's security and structure and what's easy. And it's in Pisces, so having a spiritual presence or a solid awareness of spirituality comes very naturally to you. So yeah, if you have been trying to grow spiritually or understand things in an abstract emotional way, something can really click here. And especially if you use the critical eye of Virgo to reach some real truths in a productive way, that's going to work fabulously. If you're going within just to nitpick, then that's, I feel, not the way to use it. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay. Then we have the moon in itself forming a lot of relationships with the other things in the chart. And we've got a lot of major aspect patterns. We've got a mystic rectangle, a grand trine, a kite. So this is going to feel even more intense than a regular full moon would. The first thing is the moon squares Black Moon Lilith, 26 degrees in Gemini. A square is when two planets are 90 degrees away from each other, and it's the red line. It then forms another square. Black Moon Lilith forms a square with the Sun and Neptune, and they then go back to the moon in that opposition. So that's called a T-square. It's a major area of friction that gives you energy, but means that you can go around and never really land on anything. So Black Moon Lilith in Gemini, 26 degrees, says don't communicate, especially spiritually. It's not going to serve you. Instead, look at the practicals and nitpick. It's going to encourage you to go after things that aren't useful or where you don't have any power. And Black Moon Lilith in the chart, the way I see it, excuse me, is the lower self trying to sabotage you, needle you, and keep you stuck and prevent you from making progress. The square then with the Sun and Neptune, that says spirituality isn't going to solve your problems. If you're going to get anything done, you only have to look at the nuts and bolts, and please don't meditate or talk to your higher self. It's not going to help you. So with Black Moon Lilith, it's important to read between the lines. And if Black Moon Lilith is trying to say, hey, don't meditate or don't speak to your angels, then it means please do, because that's where the value is. So that's a nice clue. Chiron is similar. It also indicates the lower self. Chiron doesn't really get into all of this. It's sitting by itself away from the sun, but it's at 11 degrees in Aries. And to me, that says, please don't help yourself, help everyone else and suffer. Don't suffer, help yourself, take care of yourself, look after yourself. So both of those are saying, don't receive any guidance because it's not going to be practical and useful, and don't take care of you. And that's a recipe for disaster, because then you'll burn yourself out, you'll run yourself into the ground, and you'll feel alone in the process. So that's very helpful in a natal chart to look at how your Chiron and your Black Moon Lilith tries to undermine what you're doing. Then we have the moon in Virgo trining. So a trine is when two things are 120 degrees away from each other. It forms a trine with the ascendant, the rising sign in Taurus at 27 degrees, and the north node at 25 degrees in Taurus. Those two then trine the midheaven in Capricorn and Pluto in Capricorn, and they trine the moon. And that's that big blue triangle, which is known as a grand trine. And in a chart that indicates an area of real talent. So the big talent here is in the element of Earth. Taurus is Earth, Capricorn is Earth, Virgo is Earth. The connection of the moon to the ascendant in Taurus gives you the ability to do the legwork and to implement the critical insights that you've worked to attain. The move over to the midheaven, which has to do with your work, Pluto being about transformation and change, the big bonus, the big blessing of this full moon in Virgo, finally we're getting to something good here, is that you're going to be able to assess your working life and to see whether it suits you or not. So if you've been in a job for a while and you don't really know whether it's using your skills and talents, whether you enjoy it or not, whether you're just there to pay the bills, which is nothing to sneeze at, and you felt stuck for a long time or trapped, this gives you a big breath and it says, hey, you're free to choose again. You are not your work. You're a person first and foremost. The work is something that you chose to do in the past. If you choose again, you can be in a different position. On top of the trine between the ascendant in Taurus and the midheaven in Capricorn, we've got two sextiles. A sextile is when two things are 60 degrees away from one another. And if you look at it, it looks like a kite. And that's exactly what it's called, a kite in the chart. When you've got a grand trine with two sextiles on one side of it, that's an area of talent that's so intense that it can take on a life of its own. So it's the difference between someone who paints stick figures and Picasso. The Picassos will be looked at in galleries long after Picasso has left. Well, that's what's actually happening. Okay, so I'm cheering myself up through this. Thank you, astrology. The two sextiles, they connect the Sun and Neptune on top of this earthy grand trine. So what comes together and what makes this amazing is that you are so spiritually aware of what will set you free and what will make you feel alive. And then the earth stuff allows you to implement that, particularly in your career, in your physical environment, and with Virgo, I would even say your health. So if any of those things have been problematic, unclear, talk to your higher self and say, hey, universe, I just can't get a grip of my diet. Can you help me, please? Can you tell me what to do? Or if you, I don't know what I should be doing for work. I have no idea. I've been looking for years and years and I just can't find anything I like. Help me, please. Give me a clue. It will give you a clue. Finances. I work my butt off. I work and I'm exaggerating here, I work 18 hours a day and I can't pay my electric. Please help me find a way of creating more balance. It doesn't have to be, show me, well, if you want to, you can, like, show me how I can be insanely wealthy, if that's what you want, but on a more normal level, it's show me how I can find more balance and work in a way where I feel I'm being rewarded for my actions and not being paid a pittance, which makes me suffer. Wow. Then we have the moon in Virgo forming a sesqui square, so it's 135 degrees away from Uranus at 12 degrees in Taurus. Uranus is the unexpected and miraculous. In Taurus, it's things in your life which are outside of your control. 1 and 2 is 3, and that's communication, new beginnings. So you'll be able to talk to the things that don't work in your life, that you feel are outside of your control. And it's almost like you're opening them up, and like a flower, right? You're opening the flower, and at the center is the solution to your problem. Or an oyster would be better. You're opening up the oyster and you're seeing the pearl at the center of the oyster and the valuable thing that you need to now resolve that. So what I've said with my issues of struggling with myself, if I'm going to ask the universe after this video, I'm going to sit down and meditate and I'm going to say, hey universe, how can I stop struggling with myself and resisting myself so much? And how can I actually heal this or accept it and work through it in a constructive way? The opposition to the sun I've mentioned. We've got another sesqui square, 135 degrees between the moon and Mars and Venus in Aquarius next to Saturn. And I haven't spoken about those at all yet. Mars's ambition at 9 degrees in Aquarius, it wants to understand the spiritual truth in order to heal and to develop spiritually. Venus at 11 degrees in Aquarius wants to understand so that it can help others. So the two are kind of at odds. Venus is saying be of service. Mars is saying be of service to yourself. Now the two aren't mutually exclusive. You can help yourself and other people. And then Saturn at 20 degrees in Aquarius. 20 is 2. 1 and 2 is a relationship. In Aquarius, it's how can I make a valuable contribution to society? And how can I let society help me? But what I'm getting more strongly from the combo of Saturn, Mars, and Venus sitting there is a feeling that society is closed to me because I have now criticized who and what I am. It is proven to me that I don't fit in, that I'm no good, and those doors are always going to be slammed in my face. And that's the downside of Virgo, that it's so harsh and then catastrophizes and say, well, you're not good anyway, just go crawl under this rock. The plus side is I have critical faculties that I can use to teach society. I don't have to belong, but what I can do is I can add value to society, and that's what's going to open the doors for me. Wow, so it's not about, oh, I'm so gay and weird and no one's ever going to like me. It's saying no one's perfect and I do have some valuable things, and if I do want to connect with people, then why not give those good things to society and share and help? Because that's what's going to make me be included. Not trying to get people to accept all my flaws, but getting people to accept the gifts I'm giving them. Ugh. I'd rather people accept me for my flaws, but that's obviously not working. So this is a different way of approaching it. Oh. Okay, so we've got that sesqui square between the moon and those three sitting up there being super judgmental as far as I'm concerned. And then Saturn, Venus, and Mars, they square Uranus in Taurus, and Uranus connects to the moon. And when I studied astrology, they taught me about kites and grand trines and stuff. 2 sesqui squares and a square create a red triangle. But I was never taught that that has a name or anything. but I feel it's important, and I would call this a triangle of friction. It's this big red triangle, and it connects these three. And the friction, I feel, is, do I defer to the wisdom of society and just blend in and again sell myself to society so that I do well? Or do I speak to my problems myself in order to heal them? And with the Virgo moon, with this triangle peaking with the Virgo moon, the gift is that you're like the scientist here with his microscope, and you can examine all your issues and really find a way through. So the message is, you don't need to sell your soul to society. You can be yourself and work through your own issues to be the best version of yourself. So as far as I can see, the chart is saying, be Nina Hagen, not Tamra Judge from the OC Housewives. But again, that is a personal choice. And that's, again, I suppose, me telling you what to do. Yeah, I'm not, I can't make a judgment call on this. I don't know whether it's better to be your true flawed self and to enjoy freedom in that, or to adapt the self in order to thrive in society. I don't have an answer. I don't know which one's better. I don't know. So you please decide which one works better for you, or what the right thing is for most people, I suppose. Let me know in the comments. I don't know. I really don't. Then we've got the moon. You see, there's so many connections here, and this is why this is so complicated. We've got the trine with the midheaven in Capricorn and Pluto. I've mentioned about that. Then we have the moon sextiling the moon. A sextile is when two things are 60 degrees away from each other. So the moon sextiles the south node in Scorpio, 25 degrees. And to me, that says you're getting overly creative with the negative narratives you're telling you. And that's the big no-no, to not go overboard, hitting yourself with a stick. A therapist once said to me, I've said this a lot lately, but a therapist once said to me, if you're going to beat yourself up, don't use a stick, use a feather. Because it feels better. And sometimes you can't do anything about it anyway, and the beatings don't make a difference. So it's that tendency to blow things out of proportion and to tell yourself a negative narrative, which then scares you half to death and doesn't affect any change anyway. The north node is at 25 degrees in Taurus, so instead of doing that, get creative with your practical circumstances and see how you feel about your career, your health, your finances, what you can do to change them. Then the moon with that sextile to the south node trines the sun and Neptune. So it's 120 degrees away. The sun and Neptune then sextile the rising in Taurus, and the rising in Taurus trines the moon in Virgo. So we've got two trines and two sextiles, and that creates a big blue rectangle called a mystic rectangle in the chart. And that really is what it says on the tin. It means you have an almost mystical awareness of who and what you are, and you can tap into it during this full moon in a way that you usually couldn't. Plus, with the hyper laser clarity of Virgo, you're able to see your true self and either how you'd like to reclaim it, or expand it, or maximize it, or become it. So whatever you want to do with yourself, that's the opportunity here. And whatever you decide to do, I do feel that the focus is going to be, who am I really? And that doesn't feel good, does it? If you're like, hey, I am who I am, I'm going about my business, I'm going to dinner parties and working and traveling and having a great time, then you're doing stuff. But if you're sitting there saying, well, am I trash really? Then that doesn't feel nice. So again, self-care and doing this gently in order to change. If we never look at ourselves, I suppose, then we can't really change or or take accountability or become the people we want to be. So it's a necessary evil, but it's certainly not a fun time. So we've got the mystic rectangle. I've mentioned the triangle of friction. I've mentioned the T-square. Oh, there's almost a yod in this chart, almost. A yod is two quincunxes, so two things being 150 degrees away from each other. They connect to create this green type of finger, but then it's only a yod when the points of origin are connected by a sextile. And here we have no sextile between the midheaven in Capricorn and the south node in Scorpio. So technically it's not a yod, but I still want to look at it because I've noticed it. The north node, the midheaven in Capricorn, quincunxes Black Moon Lilith in Gemini, and Black Moon Lilith in Gemini quincunxes the south node in Scorpio. So it's almost like your lower self has a strong influence on you that says, be dissatisfied with what you've got in life, only focus on the failures and throw your toys out of the pram. Wow, so that's how I'm responding to it. That's where I'm at. Everything sucks and forget it. So that's what not to do. Thank you. I have a much better day ahead of me now. I think that's it. Oh, no. There's another T-square, I think, between the south and north nodes, or the ascendant and descendant, the rising and the setting, and that peaks with two squares. So the opposition between the rising and the descendant, and then it peaks with two squares connecting Saturn at 20 degrees in Aquarius. Right, so instead of focusing on past failures, it's more useful to get creative with future practical circumstances. And then Saturn on top of it says, there's a lot of knowledge out there which can assist you if you don't have every practical step. What this gives you is the spiritual understanding and awareness where you want to go. Virgo then gives you a little bit of the legwork, but Saturn allows you to educate yourself in the process and to not sweat it if you don't know exactly how you're going to get from point A to B. So if I realize that this job no longer works for me and I decide to make the change, then Saturn gives you the presence of mind to say, okay, I'm going to look online and see what else is out there. And if I've never written a CV or applied for, well, you must have if you got one job. If I've never applied for a job, then I don't need to sweat that. I can look up the steps on how to apply for a job in order to get it online, for instance, or I can learn from someone else and then I can do it. So not having all the information isn't going to hold you back. You're willing to do the legwork and you're willing to learn in the process. That's kind of like the Page of Pentacles. You have a desire, and whether you figured everything out or not is irrelevant to you. And whether the key thing is that you have the willingness to learn on the job as you go, without having a panic about it. And I do think that's it. So I hope that gives you something to go on, and I really apologize if this was a little bit all over the place or scattered, because like I said, I'm not... so I hope I've made some sense. If you would like a personal reading with me, then please get in touch via my website. It's gregoryscott.com. On the front page, click on Book Your Reading to order your reading with me. In my personal readings, I use astrology, the tarot, and numerology, and I combine all of them to give you some answers. The way I combine the numbers here with the planets and then mention things like the Hermit. So that's the way I work. I combine all of them. And if you like this video, then please give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and share it online. And I hope you have a fabulous time here during this full moon in Virgo. Because you can have a fabulous time. You can really make some practical changes that are going to serve you for the future. And remember, because there's a kite in it, and a mystic rectangle, you can make changes which really reflect and serve you. Yeah, rather than, oh, let me try the next thing. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. This is like, I know what I want to do, I know what I want to change, I'm going to do it, and the outcome is pretty much guaranteed to then work for you once you've done it. And that is fabulous. So yeah, the key thing is to take that criticism and not go, oh, and instead to use it in a constructive way. Okay. So yeah, have a wonderful time, and I'll speak to you soon. All the best.